Sound okay?
Yeah, everything's good. I
Okay.
think we might be live right now. So, hey guys. Oh my goodness. You are in for a treat. I'm going to make sure you guys can see us right now, but you are not going to believe my special guest that I have today that's going to probably change your life with this conversation and your dating landscape of where you guys are at. Oh, I just said we live. Hold on. Hey Cindy, I'm so glad you're here. So good. I was funny. I was going to message you earlier to let you know about this. I'm glad that you saw it. Okay, we're almost there. Let me make sure they all saw this. We are live with Kevin. Okay, cool. There we go. Amazing. And then I just unpinned it. I need to pin it. Okay, I think we're good. All right. So, hi, Kevin.
How you doing? Look at you doing that one thing tonight. Look at you. East Coast to West Coast.
So good. All right.
Yeah.
So I have been looking forward to this since we talked because there were so many things that you said that just blew my mind, like out of the water in terms of dating goes. And just so you guys know, so Kevin, I've been talking about him all week, but he's the author of Dating with the Full Deck, and he does so many other things, but we're going to talk at least we'll start the converse. Well, actually, why don't I have you introduce yourself to everyone and tell them kind of like about you, and then we'll get into the heart of what this is
All
going
right.
to be about.
This is the hard part. I don't know if it's hard for you, but the hard for me is talking about myself as if I'm someone special. But my name is Kevin McLemore, and I want to say welcome to all of you people that are part of this one thing, doing this one thing. And I'm excited to be here. I am a four-time published author, an award-winning author for my book, Sprinkles, The True Spirit of Christmas, which is now going into being turned in from a literary piece to a animated feature film.
Oh, wow.
I've got 40 years of over 40 years of experience as a master level fitness professional. I've done trainers to the stars, to politicians, to everyday people, to Olympic athletes and whatever. So I've been in this business for a long time. I am a certified mindset coach. Most people call it life coach, but when I'm dealing with athletes or business people and trying to create a certain mindset, I talk about when I speak publicly about the power of your words and communicating because I study human behavior. Outside of that, I am just a normal person, just having a good time. I just happen to be the author of Dating with the Full Deck. I'm a person that took my divorce and made something positive. Most people turn lemons into lemonade, but I've got expensive taste, so I turned lemons into champagne. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
So good. I'm so glad. Thank you so much. And I love that you said that from the start because that was one of the things that like really got me excited from the very beginning of just even reading the forward of your book and how you talk about both of your why your first marriage and your second marriage and how much you learned from each of them and I think this is something that we all go through, like, right, like after my divorce, I hated my ex-husband, went through, I couldn't even hear his name, without like cringing and crying, and then it took, now I see like all the things that I was like owning, right? And I think that was part of that, what you were saying in there is how much those relationships taught you about things that you wanted to still work on. And also your book is kind of like an antidote to people getting matched with the wrong person, right? Because you're able to help them know that they're like similar in the way that they're wanting to nurture a relationship through people being able to use your book in the way that you want them
You're
to.
exactly right, and as much as it's going to be hard for people to believe, I actually dedicated Dating with a Full Deck to my ex-wife. Not like most people, did not leave the relationship hating my ex. I've got three wonderful children. I actually have four children, but three by this wife, and she's a great mother, great business professional. I can say nothing but positive things about it. But the one thing that, people say, well, then why did you get divorced? And I would say, just like anybody else, we were two people in two different places, but stuck in the same place, and we weren't ready for each other at that point. And that's the reason why the first part of the book that I talk about is that you have to fall in love with yourself and you have to be honest with yourself. A lot of times we get into relationships and we try to be something to someone that is not ready for it. And then we've had get people to fall in love with the wrong person. And and that was the issue. If I had addressed a lot of the things that I needed to address in our relationship, and she was in the same position, we'd probably still be together.
Mm.
But we were at two different points in our life. And just like every aspect of your life, when I am teaching people, especially with athletes and people that are in sales and whatever, we always talk about our why. And our whys are defined at different levels and different seasons in our life. And sometimes we think we're ready or we're not ready. And all of a sudden, we're trying to get ready when the other person's not ready. So it may sound like I'm talking in circles, but the reality is life is a circle.
So good. Oh my gosh. All right, guys, I'm going to check in on you. So Cindy's here. Hey, Donna, good to see you. And Mike's here. Mike is the reason for Kevin and I meeting. Mike read Kevin's book, loved it so much, and connected us, which is, I'm really grateful for that because this is amazing the way that we're aligned. And now you guys get to have the privilege of having Kevin talk to you, which is great. And then Oswald, so good to see you. Hi, Shauna. Hi, Vicky. Hi, Terry. And oh, good. Yeah, Trent Lincoln's so good. All right, guys. Well, I'm curious how many of you read the book? If you could tell me if you read it or not read it, and if you didn't read it yet, definitely buy it. It's a really great read in terms of uh actually my boyfriend and I read it together, which was great. I'm like literally read it out loud. And so which is good. And then I didn't get to do the cards specifically just with him, which is kind of funny. I did it with my daughter too. Like we were at a table and we were like started just doing it. But anyway, there's so much value in everything that you're doing. I want to start off with this is the biggest thing when I do dating challenges that I think is the hardest thing for people is the red flags and the deal breakers. I thought we could just start talking about that in terms of dating and how you recommend people approach that, or maybe how can you loosen the mind to be able to be more open, to various things.
Well, I'm going to say, and I'll say this for your listeners. And one, I'm not a dating expert. I study human behavior, and that's where I'm really good at. And the mindset of a human being. If you go into a new relationship or potential relationship, knowing that you've got deal breakers, knowing that you've got red flags and whatever, and chances are because we live in a universe that is supplied by energy, if that energy is already brought into the date, chances are it's going to manifest itself somewhere in the conversation and the date is not going to be successful. What I try to do is to define exactly what first date should be about. And that's the reason why I suggest that everyone, before they go on their first date, so you're on the same page, is to have your date after 7 days of having your initial conversation, read the book. And the reason why I say read the book, because now if you've got a person that's committed to reading the book, chances are that person's in a place emotionally to be ready for you. That person is not in a place emotionally ready for you, that person will run like hell because they'll realize that you're on a totally different level. So you don't have to worry about flags. You don't have to worry about deal breakers because your first date has nothing to do with living happily ever after, finding Mr. Right. The first date is just going out and having a good time and having a genuine, authentic conversation or an honest conversation. And if you're not in a place to have an honest conversation, then why go out on a date?
Mhm.
So we can talk about deal breakers and red flags all the time, and I can tell you that if I get to a group of people when I do this, and Mike was privy to this conversation, is that I can almost guarantee you that 99% of people that claim to have a red flag, if I were to go ahead and explain to you this scenario about red flags, deal breakers, I can almost guarantee you, unless the person is not being honest with yourself, that after I explain this scenario, you won't have a deal breaker or a red flag. And I think I went over this with you.
Yeah. Yeah. Can we do that now? Because I feel like this is one of the biggest things that I tried to flex the muscle on during the challenges, and it's one of the hardest ones that I think for people to grasp. So do you mind just kind of sharing what
I will be more than happy to. Let me set this up. My grandparents were married over 55 years, happily married. My grandmother never had a formal wedding, nor did she ever have a wedding ring until her 50th anniversary because my grandparents couldn't, my grandfather couldn't afford a wedding ring. So on the 50th anniversary, they had that wedding. White dress, everyone in tux, all the grandkids were part of the wedding party, and he presented a beautiful diamond ring. Later on, that I discovered what most people would say would be red flags and deal breakers. My grandparents have had at least one or two of those checked off in there that should have broken those two people off, but they found some reason to work it out, and I'll explain to you later on. So let me paint this picture, and I want everyone to have an open mind and an open heart.
with the
I
mind?
want you to turn off the volume to all your preset prejudice or biases when it comes to relationships. I want you to disconnect from any past relationship or damage that was done to you before, and just be open minded. So I want to take you guys on a beautiful cruise. 70% of this population is women. The other 30% are men. And if you go to however we're divided and whatever that number could be skewed either way, I don't know those numbers. I wrote the book for what I know to be a man and what I know to be a woman. In the event that you happen to celebrate your life in a different way, this applies to you because you're part of the human race. But imagine going on the most amazing, beautiful cruise. There's 5,000 people on that cruise ship. I mean, it is a five-star cruise, and everyone's dressed to the nine. You're celebrating. And for the whole time that you've gotten on that cruise, either that one male or that woman has been all over you. And every single thing that you've ever thought that was just totally horrific about that person, that person exemplifies. Well, all of a sudden, this cat comes on, and I'm going to use male and woman because most of the time, most women think it's the man that kind of screws up the relationship. So we're going to go with the narcissist. We've got a guy that we know that has dated our girlfriends, that's on his cruise. He's very successful in his life, but we have labeled him as girlfriends as a womanizer. And he has taken interest in you, Stacey. He has followed you around. He has made several attempts, and your girlfriends are all giving you advice and telling you all the horrible things. And you have looked at him and said, even though physically, wow. But when you go through and go, he's not that. He smokes. You don't like smokers. He drinks too much. You don't like drinkers. He's been unfaithful to three of your friends that have dated him and has lied and cheated. But he's been married three times. He's a good father, takes care of his kids, whatever. And every single time he comes to you, you won't give him the time of day. But after the third day of being on this cruise, the boat's capsized, and there are only two survivors. As
Mm.
you wash ashore, on the only piece of material that floated, ends up at a tropical island, is you and Mr. Wrong. And for the first 3 days, you sit there and says, I'm not going to have a conversation with him. And because you're female, I'm going to put you on the most beautiful island. There's fruit, there's a tropical breeze that's going 24/7. And in landscape, it is just beautiful. Sunrise to sunset. After the third day of being stranded on an island, you start to realize there's a possibility you're never going to be rescued. And all of a sudden, he comes in there with shorts and his torn shorts on, and he's hobbling over through, and he's got a little belly. He's not as fit as you thought he was, and he is fishing for food. After 72 hours, that rumble in your stomach starts to say even the worst fast food takeout is now a five-star restaurant. If he comes over and presents you with food and you turn it down because you can do it yourself, because you are a strong, independent woman. Remember that conversation that we all had? I can do it myself. I'm successful. But after day 4, day 5, even the worst chef turns into that TV star chef and whatever, and you start to share food. And believe it or not, even on the most beautiful tropical island, it gets a little cold at night. And right now, 97.6, which is the average person's body temperature, feels a lot better when it's cuddled up with a 97.6 person. And before you realize it, every single night you're cuddled up trying to stay warm. Now, he hasn't tried anything because both of you are trying to survive. And
Mhm.
believe it or not, the storm comes in, and you can see it coming in. He starts to build shelter. And then all of a sudden you start to gather with him. And Stacey, knowing you, you're probably a lot more handy than most men. And you take control, you build a shelter. And all of a sudden the two of you are sitting in his hut together, weathering out the storm, 97.6, 97.6, snuggled up together. And a man that has not ever communicated with a woman, when he knows that this is the last conversation he's going to have with a woman, he's going to start talking. And you're going to have conversations that substance. And all of those things that you had that were red flags and deal breakers when it's just the two of you guys, after 1 year, after 2 years, after 3 years, after 5 years, won't even matter. Because just like a relationship, the reason why my grandparents, your parents, and friends last 55 years, because life is tough and you have to go through some stuff, in order to survive. You have to make decisions that may be unpopular to your friends. So deal breakers only exist if you're looking for a reason to not exist within a relationship with another person. But like anything else, relationships takes work. And if you look at the statistics, that 70% of the divorces that were filed last year were between women that were 40 and 55 years of age. And the statistic that this came from, all the women were going through menopause. Mm. So us men, we have no idea what you guys are going through. And that's the reason why you got to talk to us. And that's the reason why you got to hold our heads firm and say, listen to me, I'm talking to you. And for those men that are there, if you care about her, you pay attention. Don't wait to be heard. Just listen to her. My love language is just listen. All right, without interruption. All right. I spell love LUV. Don't interrupt her. Understand that what she's saying to you is real. And the V is to validate the fact that her feelings are important to you. That's love. And then repeat that over again. Don't look for E because that becomes an excuse. Does any of that make sense?
Oh my gosh, yeah, no,
Yeah.
oh, I'm hearing a feedback. I think we're good. Yeah, no, it totally does. What it reminds me of, almost kind of like what inspired my challenge, was the first dating challenge I did. Was I was in the date, I was dating, and then like beforehand, and then I had a bunch of friends around me dating, and then I was in a group, it's a Peloton singles group, and I just was seeing a lot of the like, I want to meet someone, I can't find anyone, like a lot of that language, right? And at that time, I was going to like a lot of these different kind of like retreats, and like I really wanted to learn how to listen better. I was going to an authentic relating conference. I went to just all these different kind of like retreats and kind of self-improvement things, because I was still kind of like coming out of everything. And what I noticed, I met a lot of men and I met a lot of women at these events, and they all wanted the same thing. Like they all wanted the same thing. And there was like this wall up though when they would meet, like no one knew what the other wanted. And so there was no way to actually like get into connection, because it was all the preconceived junk, and the walls that we put up and all of this stuff. And when you go to an authentic relating thing, it's like you open up the trunk, and you see what's inside, right? And I feel like, I think that's what I loved. That's why I thought it was so cool in my Connected Us, because not only like I'm game, I'm game is the do the thing formula. So everything's a game. And so it's cool that your book is like 52 cards per game. And then you also have the jelly bean thing. So you have the same kind of like vision there. But yeah, it's the idea of just having deeper conversations and more meaningful connections is what's able to then open everyone up. And that's what you're saying, right? You're like, you're on this deserted island, you have no choice but to either be alone or to talk to this person and get to know them and ask for what you want, and ask for what you
You're exactly right.
need.
And believe it or not, just like anything in life, life's about two things: chance and choice. We all take the chance of being with Mr. or Mrs. Right, or Mr. Right, or Mrs. and Mrs. Right, or however we identify being right. We have to be politically correct. So I hate being politically correct. Just get into a relationship. But I will tell you, and I'll say this for every single author out there that has anything to do with deal breakers or red flags and whatever, the reason why those exist is because there's profit in a negative conversation. There's no profit in success. Otherwise, everyone will be successful.
Mm.
All right. So you've got to realize that as soon as you put up a wall, because I'm one of those people, I'm the most unawkward dating people. All right. As soon as I like someone or I'm interested, I become mush mouth. I do not have my stuff together. When I get on stage, I'm a prince. When I get to a point that my heart's connected to the conversation, whatever, my mind is playing a joke. I've got two little men on my shoulder, and the other man, one of them saying, I dare you to say it. Just go ahead and say it. Go ahead and say it. Go ahead and say it. And the other one says, don't say it. It's just going to come out wrong. Just go ahead and don't say it. Every woman that I've ever gotten involved with because of my shortcomings has approached me.
Mm,
And it makes it easy because of what I do. And I'm a workaholic, and I know that's one of my downfalls. I'm a gym junkie. I know that's one of my downfalls. But I love just as hard as I work. And I always say, don't feed my distractions unless you're at the other end of what's feeding me.
mm.
Okay, then I can be distracted. I always make time for the person that's important to me. And that's the persons you need to realize. When you've got someone that makes you a priority, you will no longer be an option in their life, no matter how busy they are or how successful they are. If you are a priority, they will always be able to address your needs. Now, the hard part is making that man or woman appreciate the fact that you're available to them and not abuse you. And
Mm,
some of us lose sight of that. And when it comes from a woman to a man, sometimes because we're not taught to be emotional, some women, because we're strong, independent, we don't need a man type of woman, we happen to break a good man that is open to us. Because one of the things is you look at the way we raise our children, women are taught to their children to be emotional human beings. Men are taught to go out there and conquer. We don't learn emotions until we get with one of you guys, and we learn that. And the one thing is, if that door ever opens up with a man versus a woman, and you give that man a chance to close that down, it's like Fort Knox and trying to get a withdrawal from the government.
Oh my gosh, so good. All right, you guys, I'm gonna check in with you. If you guys can put any questions in the comments, I would love it. We could talk to, are you okay with that, Kevin, if we
Yeah,
go
you
straight
can ask me
down?
any question. I don't know anything.
Cool. Yeah. No, I love it. But I think it's true. Like you interviewed 100 people and then you've worked with so many people. And there's so
I for this book, I interviewed
yeah.
1,500 people.
Oh, 1,500. Oh my God.
15, it took me 2.5 years
Wow.
to get the information and 5 years to write the book. And matter of fact, when I got to the point that my book was accepted by the publisher and the final edit, I had already rewritten it 20 times.
Wow.
And 30 days before, because I wasn't satisfied, because I kept running into different people with different experiences. And I'm saying, I gotta put that in the book. I had a couple. I wrote it, technically, I rewrote it 25 times in order to get it to the state that I'm in. But since I've had this book, I've had four couples that were in the brinks of going through a divorce that have realized, just like you, there were some issues that they had not addressed and they were putting on their mates and stopped the divorce.
Wow.
Four couples. And I keep saying, what chapter was that in? Because I didn't know that I said
Wow.
anything that would change your mind. But that's what happens when you are at a state when you're honest with yourself.
Right. Yeah, right. Because you're so in the anger of it and in the wrong of the other person. And not to say, you guys, we're good. Like we're, let me word this in a way. That's everything that happened, right? But then there's two ways we could take it. One is just keeping the resent and the anger and the hurt and the angst. And then the other is to just look at, okay, where do I want to like do better in future relationships, right? And where could I should have showed up differently? And so that's just kind of that's what I'm suggesting. And I think that's where you're at too, right? Like you're really owning the parts of it that you learned about yourself and you learned about what you want too. Like it's not just like that was the other thing I learned really about what I what I wanted, for the next relationship
And
too.
that's one of the things I learned from listening to my grandparents' story, because they have many of the deal breakers that most of our listeners right now have on that chart. And when I asked my grandmother, why did they stay together? My grandmother said I had spent X amount of years building the perfect man. I'll be damned if I'm going to let some other woman benefit from all the hard work that I did. So when we talk about return on investment to the day they died, they worked together.
I love that. Oh my gosh, that's so good. That is hilarious. Oh my God, that is so good. Okay, we have some things happening here. Okay, Delisa said, my issue is that I haven't met anyone. It's been 4 years and now know what I need in a husband. I will be 50 in July. I have been in numerous abusive relationships and I have healed a lot. I'm looking for a masculine man who is a Christian. I'm not one of those women who need a man who need a man, also not a strong, I'm a strong, independent woman. I need a partner. Um, so this is really interesting because thank you for sharing that, by the way. I appreciate it because I know there's a lot of people that are in that same similar situation, right? And I think the thing I'm wondering too is, let's say she starts dating, and you guys, I'm gonna say I'm gonna do it. Okay, I'm doing a dating challenge sometime this summer. I'm just figuring out the date, but I'm almost thinking like, so when you're saying first date, so let's say they meet someone through my dating challenge, right? And they go on a date. So you're suggesting that very first date, they take the cards with them, right? And then are you open to them taking it on the second date so they could meet the person first, or is there like a reason why you like it on the first date?
Well, the reason why I say, you know, if you've read the book and
Mm-hmm.
you've made a connection with the book, the first thing that you're going to learn from the book is that before you invite anyone to the space that you're in, that means your first date, you have to come to terms about who you are. If you listen to the conversation of what you just read, I am looking for a husband. That was one part. I talk a lot about the power of your words. I'm looking for this. I'm looking for that. I'm 50 years old. I've been absent from a relationship for X amount of years. But as soon as you say but, it dismisses everything that you've already said. I am a strong, independent woman. And technically, the way the strong, independent woman is, she doesn't need a man. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Most men don't want to become someone's husband. We have to learn to love someone to the point that we don't want to live without them. We have to be taught. The reason why this book is so important is because if you find a man that reads this book and he's connected with himself on the same level, the first barrier of that conversation of what was needed versus what I wanted, okay, it seems to be blended together and merged together because now you're on the same page. You're not going with someone that just wants to go out and have a good time. You're not going out with someone that just wants a drink or a dinner companion, or you're not going out with someone that is so damaged from two other relationships. Now he's going to bring you or you're going to bring him into that relationship. So when you look at what women, if I were to ask you, what do most women and men, what are they looking for? And I'm asking you, Stacey.
Oh, I feel like I read this.
We
I
talked about this.
Yeah, no, it's so the women, I'm trying to remember who said
It's
what. They
one word.
Affection, it was one word.
What is one in human nature? What are we all
Yeah.
looking for?
Oh, love.
All right, wrong.
No, okay. What
No,
is
we're not looking for love.
okay?
We're all looking to be happy.
Happy. Okay.
And where does happiness start?
With ourselves.
With ourselves. Now,
Right.
when you talk about love, you have to realize when a child is born, no matter what he or she does throughout their life, they're all deal breakers, but you love them regardless. That's called
Oh,
unconditional love. So
okay.
when you have a child, you volunteer to love that child. You volunteer. When
Mhm.
you bring someone into your space or into your life, it is a decision. And how you stay in love is still a decision. That's when you have to overcome those deal breakers. I'm not telling anyone to stay with an abusive relationship or whatever. I'm not telling anyone to stay with a serial cheater or whatever. But I
Right.
will tell every single person on here, if you ever looked on the big screen and fantasize about what would have happened if I had one night with Denzel Washington, Tom Cruise, Gloria Estefan, name a movie star. Emotionally, we have all stepped out of our relationship if we had that thought.
Wow.
All right. So we're all capable, but we all choose to make a decision in order to stay in our relationships. So the reason why it's important for the book to be shared with someone that you're compatible, because chances are you've had a conversation over text and you have interest. And if that person's interested in you, and I had a person that did this all wrong because her thing was she had a 5-date rule and then she put out. And she
Mhm.
told everyone that she went out with that she had a 5-date rule and then she put out. And so what do you think a man did? He waited 5 days, she put out. When a
Mhm.
man is looking for something special, he's looking for someone that's going to protect his heart, someone that's going to be supportive of him, someone that's going to be a confidant and allow him to be vulnerable. He's not looking for a housekeeper or cook or whatever. He's looking for a partner.
Mhm.
All right. And that partner sooner or later becomes his wife. But because the way that society and books have taught us as women, we're looking for someone to complete us. And no one can complete you but you, if that makes sense.
Definitely.
So,
Yeah, no, yeah, and that's what I loved about the to find it now. The one with yeah, become your own Mr. and Mrs. Right.
right.
I'd love you to, and I want to get back to the questions. So keep putting your questions in the comments, you guys, and I'll come back there in just a minute. But I want to talk about the jelly beans part of it. If you could just explain what that is, and then I also want to help them start with themselves because I think at the end you said you could also do this before you meet someone too.
Exactly right. So the jelly beans is I've got a weird sense of humor. If you look at my podcast, it says Talking Wit, WIT, Kevin and Son. Most people want to put an H on there, but I was taught to read or write when I was a junior in college. I was a standout athlete and I didn't want to graduate as a dumb jock. So I've always been able to articulate a conversation and I've always had um well, my friend said I have no filter. I have a very sarcastic wit. And I love to laugh. I love to pick and tease and so forth. So the whole thing with jelly beans is because men are not mind readers. We are everything like our whole life is make the football team, make good grades, be honors, do this, whatever, get promoted and whatever. That's the way we're structured. We didn't grow up to learn how to play with dolls, to nurture other children, to cook and be compassionate, to lean or to cry or anything else. So the whole point of the jelly beans, it gives you something physical to look at. Because normally by the time we have a conversation with not addressing our female partner's needs, it's already a conversation that has been should have been had 3 years ago, but there's 3 years of conversation that now shows up in present conversation. I know with my situation, I was always saying, can we just argue in present conversation? Because I don't even remember half the stuff. So the jelly
Right.
beans means that every single time that I'm going to say hypothetical, you and I, every single time that I have done something that connects to your love language, you add a red jelly bean to it,
Hmm.
to that jar. And I do the same thing every single time that I miss something in your love language, you add a black jelly bean. So now instead of me having to read your mind, because I can't do it because I'm too busy trying to go out and survive and be a man, live up to the false stereotypes of what a man is supposed to be. And those are all made up stuff of someone said that this is what a man should be. And what a man should be is vulnerable to his mate. And submissive to his mate and vice versa. And so when I start to see the black jelly beans, Stacey,
Hmm.
is there something I'm missing before it becomes a problem?
I love that.
And your responsibility is to tell me, you know,
Yeah.
it's like, men are like, if you tell me to take out the trash and I take out the trash, men emotionally, because we're being rewarded like a puppy, put me a treat, you know, send out the parade. Um, and women basically said, that's your responsibility. But if that's his love language to make sure that you don't have to do some labor around the house, don't complain. It's like in my house. Um, I don't cook. and I can't cook. You know, my children say 1 out of 7 meals is edible when dad cooks. So it's the thing is I don't mind cleaning. And when I grew up in my grandparents' house, whoever cooked didn't have to clean dishes. It was 13 of us. So there's a lot of dishes to clean up. So I don't mind cleaning. I'm a neat freak. But the
Mhm.
problem is that if I put away the dishes and you come through and you look at the fact that they weren't the dishwasher wasn't loaded in the way that you were taught, and all of a sudden you turn around and scold me for it, it makes it hard for me to want to do dishes. We as
Yeah.
partners, both male and female, we teach our mates how to be close to us, and we also teach our mates how to be distant from us. Does that make sense?
Oh, it does. Yeah. And sometimes it's also not even about the dishes. It's from all those unsaid black jelly beans that you haven't talked about. And so then
Yeah.
it topples out of the jar as you're
Yeah.
like just building it up. Yeah.
So I'm going to give you the same advice my dad gave me. Now, this may work in some relationships. You're going to be open. He says, if you're going to argue, argue naked.
Oh, that's so
And
good. I
and my
love
father said, in the event that you cannot get your point across and she's not listening to you, then there's nothing you're going to say. He said, go sleep on the couch.
that. Oh my gosh. Okay, so good. All right, you guys, I'm checking with you. So Vicky said she loves what you said about always making time to the person who's important to me. So good. And then Susan asked, where do I find a nice man?
Where do you find a nice man? Um, um, you know something? What's a nice man to Vicky? Ask Vicky,
Oh, wait,
what's a
that's
nice
Susan.
man to her?
That was Susan.
Yeah.
Vicky, yeah.
Susan, what's a nice man?
Okay, let us know. Yeah. Oh, good. Vicky just ordered your book. And Donna likes the jelly. Oh, I forgot to ask you something on the jelly beans question. Okay, we're going to go back to that question because I want to make sure I ask you this. The jelly beans, if they're going to start doing that, because I love, you said it at the end, but then I couldn't yet conceptualize what I would do. But like, before you meet someone, you want to fill up your own jelly beans, right? You know, you want to
You're
like figure
exactly
out.
right.
So how do
The,
you,
the, the first person you have to love
mm-hmm,
is you. And if you want to become an expert dater, date yourself for a while. If
mm-hmm,
you've been in a bad relationship, in order to get beyond that relationship, date yourself for a while. There's 4 emotions that will change your life if you remember, if you can remember this. 4 things. I don't remember where I was taught this, but
okay.
the first thing is discuss. If you get to a point in life that things that you've been doing is like people date the same person over and over again. They always meet the wrong person. You get to the point that you get so sick and tired of dating Mr. Wrong or whatever. Look for someone else that is totally opposite of that person. The second is decision. Make a decision that you're never going to go back there again. And when I look at this book that I've written, all right, I had people, and I'm one of these old school people. I don't put out on the first date, even though there's a section on there when I have my heart broken on a one
Yeah,
night stand.
I want to talk
Is
about
that
it.
is that I deemed myself as the prize. There is a incubation period on relationship between I get before I give my greatest gift to someone else. That person has to earn it. Earn may be the
Mhm.
wrong word, but I need to be compatible. I am not when it comes to being intimate. As much as most people think men are like this, I am not the super highway. All right, I'm in the slow lane, waiting to merge on something right. So discuss, make a decision, and then talk about what you desire most. And then if you once you put those 3 things together, you have to resolve any issues that you've had from any damage that's been done to you in the past in order to be open for someone that's going to fill those gaps and quit revisiting bad conversations, bad relationship, bad experience with someone's trying to give you a better experience, a better relationship, and an open and authentic relationship. And people will make mistakes, and remember they're human. And the last thing I'm going to tell you, and this has nothing to do with the 4 emotions, is quit keeping score.
Oh,
Because if someone wins, that means someone has to lose.
that is so good. Oh man, that is so good. Yeah, so good. Ugh. And it's so easy to do that. Like when something goes wrong, whatever, you're doing, it's like then you keep having the evidence to like
Mhm.
bring up more, right? It's like you're looking for more reasons. So even if you guys are dating someone and maybe he doesn't call you when you think he should call you or whatever, and then you're like, oh, and then he did this, and then this happened, and it's like, so that's so normal, I think, for us to do that, where you keep bringing up more things because it protects you, right? It's a protection strategy, I think.
Yeah. And then the other thing, it's just like, some men get labeled as serial players. They always have someone else on the hook, or he cheated on me and whatever. Ask yourself, when you're going through the scenario of why your relationship or why someone stepped out of the relationship, because normally there's only a handful of people that are just real bad people when it comes to relationships. That's because they've never been taught. But I always say to my women in the audience, if a man can justify changing his behavior, he will change his behavior for someone that's worth changing for. So
Mm,
even the worst person, and that's male or female, will change if they can justify changing. So if you can get someone to love you on a level higher than they love themselves or their needs, and you're meeting their needs, there's only 1% of the male or female population that's just screwed up that will mess up a good thing no matter what.
yeah.
But most of us will get to a place or a season in life that they just want to settle down and enjoy life. And sooner or later that those two people will come together. So I've been in the health and fitness business for over 40 something odd years, and I will tell you, I've heard it and I've seen it all. I've seen people stay in bad relationships till death do us part. I've seen people stay in relationships and have other relationships and happy as a cow.
Mm,
I've seen people drive a good man out of their relationship just because they had issues that they weren't ready to resolve, and the person finally got fed up. And men do the same thing to women too. All
mm-hmm.
right. I've been a victim of this conversation myself. So at some point, we've all got to become professional listeners. And at some point, we've got to put our needs in front of our own needs. And at some point, we've got to get a partner that makes our needs a priority.
So if they're doing the jelly bean exercise by themselves until they end up meeting someone, is it pretty much, is it that? I mean, I know you said love language for the partner, but is it also like if I'm not asking for what I need or doing what I need for myself, it's like or do you have a certain way that would be a good starting point? So I love the
Well,
dating yourself.
when you look at your needs, ask yourself, all right, if you want someone physically fit and you're not physically fit, why are you asking someone to give you something you're not?
Mm-hmm.
If you are a person that I'm going to give you a scenario. This is a true story. I
Mm-hmm.
have a friend that's a celebrity that owns a 100-acre farm. Her house is 330,000 square feet. Any man that she dates right now, okay, is going to have, even if it's a six-figure earner, and most of us are impressed by that. But when you come into a relationship, when a woman doesn't need a home, she doesn't need to provide, she can travel when she wants, she can buy anything she wants, whatever. You ask, where does the man fit in? All
Mm,
right. And you ask a man where he fits in. When he looks at a woman that's successful, you know, Julie Roberts dated the Grip from her movie thing, and dated him until he passed away.
mm,
It's because he met her emotional needs. The value that she placed on life wasn't her income, because someone's got to work. That's the reason why I said till death do you part, for richer or poorer, through sickness and health. We forget those words. We're all going to grow old. We're all going to lose our hair. We're all going to gain some weight. But if that person loves you, he's going to love you. And that's the key thing you got to do, is love you where you're at. But
mm-hmm.
don't bring someone in and hold them to a standard that you can't hold to yourself,
Mm-hmm.
if that makes sense.
It does, yeah. And then Susan answered your question on what a good man is. She just said caring, honesty, and then she said yeah, she's always finding the wrong person. So caring and honesty is what.
Right. So honesty starts with, if you're open to receive the truth. Jerry Maguire said it himself, you can't handle the truth. And I
Mm,
and I say this in the book. We teach our partners how to lie to us. You go into a relationship and you tell your spouse or your partner that you're going out with the boys, and while you're dating them, whatever time he comes in, it was okay. So when
Mhm.
he gets married, he has an obligation to say, well, I'm going out with the boys. And you say, well, what time he's going to be home? He goes, I don't know. Because he's always gone out with the boys. And she says, well, just call me. And then she says, what time are you going to be home? And I'm using she because men don't care because if we get a night out, we just go sleep on the couch and watch sports. And you say 11 o'clock. All right. So 11 o'clock comes out. The guy looks down at his watch and goes, oh, I got to call my wife. And all of a sudden his friend says, oh, Kevin is whooped. He's got to go call the wife and whatever. And Kevin says, because he's got an ego, oh, my wife's asleep. I don't want to wake her up. I'm not going to call her. I'll explain to her when I get home. Well, all of a sudden my cell phone rings at 15 after 11. Where are you? Well, I'm out with the boys. You said you're going to be home at 11 o'clock. No, you told me to commit to a time. I said I didn't know I was going to come home, but I was coming home. Well, all of a sudden he's uncomfortable now. So now that when he goes out, it's like if he's going out with the boys and he's always went out, he's at a sporting event, he can't tell you if he's coming home at 11 o'clock. But if he calls you at 11 o'clock, don't make him feel bad if he's telling you he's going to be 15 minutes late. Just say, be safe. If
Mhm.
you make him feel uncomfortable, he'll start lying without a reason
Oh, wow.
because men are always like little boys.
I was
We
just
don't want
thinking
to
it
get
sounds like a teenager.
yeah, we don't want to get in trouble. All
Yeah.
right. And the fact is that a man needs, just like a woman needs. So I don't want to put anyone out, needs a woman to come home, to make him want to come home. He needs a partner, needs to be safe. Every man should feel, and every woman should feel when the time comes at the end of their workday and whatever, they can't wait to get home. But
Mm.
if for some reason you give that man a reason to delay and stay late, he'll work later. He'll ask for more responsibility. He will, I do it myself right now because I need 20 minutes to diffuse because I'm saving everyone else's. As soon as I call home and say that I'm coming home, she starts dinner. And if I'm not home by the time, the last fork gets through, there's an issue. So I'm
Mhm.
delayed 20 minutes because I need 20 minutes to kind of diffuse from everything I'm doing to make
Yeah.
my notes. And then halfway home, I call her and says, I'm on my way home. And then I know I have a 5 minute cushion. We train our partners. And remember this, we, men and women both do it, how to be close, how to be intimate, and how to be distant. We train our partners.
Hmm. So true. So good. So Oswald had a great question. He said, how does one overcome the fear of putting themselves out there to meet a girl?
Well, I'm going to say this. I have the same fear. Just like I started my podcast, I overthink everything. And my son says, Dad, how do you learn to swim? And I said, hire a coach. He says, no. He said, you get in to the water. And if you decide you don't want to drown, you start swimming like crazy trying to get to shore. You ever look at a guy that is so hideous to everyone else and he is married to the most beautiful woman in the world? And you know how he overcame that fear? He was confident enough to walk up to her and said hello. And he
Mm,
met a woman that was open to someone saying hello. Most of us are so turned off so easy, and we live in a society when hello is now sexual harassment, when good morning is that he's trying to get into my pants, or goodbye means goodbye instead of I'm just leaving for the day. We're
mhm.
so easily to be offended. We're walking around constantly offended. The other thing is, put your cell phone in your pocket when you're walking down the street. A lot of times, Mr. and Mrs. Wright has just walked right by you, but we're so trained to
Yeah.
look at our social media, we don't know. And we've been jaded. I just had a group of 6 women that are all very successful, and all 6 women are over 50, all six-figure owners, and not one of them has a boyfriend. And not one of them has been in a healthy relationship because they've all been best of friends. Who wants to be that little mouse that just got dropped into the lion's den?
Mhm.
I got 6 very strong, independent women, and they're strong and independent. And guess what? I got 6 women that can't find a man. So
Mm.
the easiest way to do is find someone that is outside of what you've been doing and find someone that is ready for you. And you have to be ready for them. And it all starts with hello.
That's so good. I love that. And then when you end up going on the date, then you go through the dating with the full deck.
The nice thing about the 52 cards and the jokers, and we get to that, is that what is a date? It's nothing but fun. Now, because I study human behavior, everything that you're going to learn about that person that you have lived with, slept with for the last 6 months, you're going to learn within an hour and a half of sitting at dinner playing these cards. The only conversation you're going to have. So there's no uncomfortable conversations in there. In the event that you find a conversation is uncomfortable, you have a joker card. But if you read the book, the rules are in the event that I have the joker card and you skim over a conversation or half-ass it, if I give you the card, you have to fully commit to having that conversation about that, whatever that topic is. And that's what it is, being authentic and being true to yourself.
Mhm.
Because we all have shortcomings. No one comes into any relationship without some baggage. I said this on a couple of podcasts before because I've cleared 2 women's credit in my lifetime. I want to date a woman that's open to. She doesn't have to do it. I just want to hear someone say they will
Mhm.
clear my credit. And by the way, I carry no debt. Okay, so
Mhm.
I'm looking for emotional credit.
So good. Well, oh my gosh. I can't even believe it's already been an hour. It's crazy to me. But this was so good. Please share with everyone the weekly Sunday call that you have so they can sign up for that. And then also I just wanted to re-mention Kevin's book as well.
So all of my books, if you look at books by Kevin McLemore, can be
Oh,
found
cool.
on Amazon.com. My podcast, Talking with Kevin and Son, which showcases people should know. Now, every Sunday, because I have more than 300 original motivational quotes, and I said earlier, I was always curious how they landed on other people. I created a group of 10 people. One or two of my co-hosts on there are semi-famous movie stars and film directors. I have a very eclectic group of people that act as my co-hosts. I'm probably the only podcast out there that welcomes in total strangers as long as you can adhere to being kind, courteous, and positive. And we throw out quotes based on interpretation and perspectives. Like today's quote was by a cartoonist, and it says, "Let us not go back in anger or forward in fear, but around in awareness." And that was our quote. And
Mm.
I'm just curious on how it lands on everybody else. And it's amazing what the conversation that we have every single Sunday. And sometimes it's hilarious. Last week when we had Mother's Day, didn't realize that, I didn't even think about the fact that my mother's living with cancer, that every day with my mom is the last day. It turned out to be very funny in the beginning until one of my co-host was talking about not having a very positive relationship with her mother. And it kind of changed the whole thing of it. So if you go to Motivational Sundays with Kevin and Friends, it's on our YouTube page, R&K Productions and Network. And the description's in there. The Zoom link is in there. We start at 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And we have a great time. It lasts about 35 minutes.
That sounds great. Well, so good. Thank you so much for coming on. I imagine you'll be coming back again at some point because I feel
I
like
I I would love to come back. And matter of fact, what I would like to do, I would like to have someone that actually takes my book out on a date, have someone videotape it, and have couples come back on that have read it, and maybe do a Zoom when we're all on it and talk about the book itself.
oh, I
Um,
love that. I wonder maybe I can incorporate that into the dating challenge. I'll have to think about that. That'd be
we we
interesting.
can we can do that. That'll be fun.
Yeah, yeah, because I wanted to do a book club before you came on, but it wasn't enough time, to like plan it and everything. But let me know in the comments too if you guys would want to do kind of like a book club around it also, because there's so much in there that is like each chapter has a whole conversation around it, which is what I really like. And then we could plan on doing something in the dating challenge. So when you go on a date and like go on actual date, you could bring it and then that would be definitely fun to do. So
The other thing is my contact number is in the book. I'm probably the only author that says you have access to me. If you like the book, write a review. If you hate the book, write an honest review. If you love the book, pass it on to someone else that's in your same situation and share it. Share it with your local media, share it with your best friend, share it with a couple that's already in a relationship or struggling, and tell anyone that is struggling in a relationship, work
Mm,
it out. Okay, because like there's not a lot of great options out there, and there's only a handful of people like you and your guests or whatever that are willing to work it out. And there's a handful of people because of social media, and social media has corrupted dating.
yeah,
Um, you
definitely.
know,
Yeah.
just
That,
just
so
just just be you and do that thing.
do yeah, Vicky said, I love the idea of a book club. I'd have to go on a date to join the challenge. Eek. And then
Date
Mike,
yourself. You're already on a date.
there you go. Oh, I love that. Yeah. And then Mike said definitely cards on the dating challenge. Okay, good. Then Shauna said yes. Challenge accepted. Oh, a dare. Yes. I guess Donna's in. Okay, good. You guys are good. Yes to book club. Okay, we are good. So we're doing a book club. We're adding your book to the dating challenge. All the good stuff. And some of you I saw asked a lot of like where to go meet people and apps. I'm actually having oh my gosh, dating with Katie is coming on tomorrow at 4 o'clock Pacific Standard Time here in the group. We did an Instagram live, but she actually, since I went out of my comfort zone with Instagram, she's coming live in the Facebook group this time. And she's not used to Facebook. So it's kind of cool. Now we're like flipping.
Let,
She does the dating apps and things like that.
let me say this real quick. The lady that asked where do you go find a date or whatever the case
Oh,
would be,
yeah. Uh-huh.
chances are the person that's most interested in you, you've already walked by him or her
Oh.
constantly. And I will say this is me. If I were single and dating, the first place I would go to find someone is at Home Depot or Lowe's because that way I know one, they're handy and they own their own freaking home. All right. Don't go to a bar because all you're gonna do home is bring home trouble, bring home another lonely soul, another drunk. Don't go there. Go to some place that you enjoy. If you like going to the theater, go to the theater and say hello to someone. If you like going to museums, say hello to the person that's looking at the picture that just has a dot on there and said, explain that to me. Look for someone that's doing something you already know like doing, you know, and then find a comfort because already, if you find one thing that's in common they like doing, you're already off to a great start. And
Yeah.
then the other thing is if you're looking for someone that has great family values, find someone that is connected to their family,
Mm,
not a mommy's boy or daddy's boy, whatever. But if I always say this, if someone is have a connection with their faith, if they don't break God's heart, they won't break yours.
hmm. Wow. Incredible. Thank you so much, Kevin. I really appreciate you
No, thank
coming
you. I
on.
had a good time. I was nervous, I would tell you.
You were?
Oh yeah, can't you tell?
No,
I'm
no.
a big I'm a big fan of yours. I'm like, yay, you know.
I I love it though because like I think so many people think that like when you're doing stuff like this that you don't get nervous, right? But it's so it always happens where people are and the thing where afterwards people are like, did I do a good job? Like that happens a lot, right? You probably hear that with your podcast where how did I do?
Right.
Like we all have we're all the same, really. It just depends on who's taking the inches,
Yeah.
forward. But
And stop being afraid because if you ask 100 people out that you think is your type and you get 99 no's and you get one yes, only count the yes.
mm, yeah, I love that. And then Cynthia said, yes, have it in a book club and a challenge. Oh, Donna loves Lowe's. She loves doing like the idea of doing it at Lowe's. And then Shauna said this was great. A lot of good advice. I love the jelly bean thing. And Carmen said, thank you. And Mike said, human all the way. Yes. All right,
There
you
you
guys.
go.
Thanks for joining. Again, come back tomorrow at 4 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. I will be giving you the new dare for the week. We've been kind of like rotating that around and I have a couple ideas, but I'll let you know tomorrow. And do the thing. Don't wait for opportunity. Create
Do the thing. Right.
it.